Ignorance can find the solution. Like many, another post prompted this story. It started as a comment, but it grew enough I thought I'd make a separate post. Onto the wall of text. Back in the early 2000s I was the field engineer for a tape backup library manufacturer of a western state in the US. They still make tape libraries and tape drives. We had a customer that is one of the largest processor manufacturers in the world. One group at one of their campuses had 4 of our biggest tape libraries connected to some X-hosts via fiber channel to SCSI bridges. We had an escalation going on for over a year. Fiber channel packet capture boxes rented and connected between X-fiber card and the bridges in the libraries. I was on site every day copying the take from the packet captures to send back to advanced tech support. When idle, the link would reset and renegotiate about 6 times per second. When backups/restores were going on, everything worked fine and the resets didn't happen. The multiple resets per second would eventually cause the fiber to SCSI bridge to randomly lock up within 2 to 3 weeks, requiring a manual reset with a paperclip. Our advanced tech support engineer was running the show. IBM was involved. IBM involved the fiber channel card manufacturer. Nobody could figure it out. They knew it was something to do with FCP2, which is some sort of error correction, to my recollection. One day, I'm poking through the configuration options on the fiber to SCSI bridge, and there's a setting to enable/disable FC Class 2, which is disabled by default. Is it related? I dunno, I'm just a service guy. Turns out kind of. FC Class 2 is for TCP/IP over fiber channel, to my recollection, probably not quite correct. I approach one of the customer backup folks and tell them about the setting, admit ignorance, and suggest we try enabling it and see what happens. We enable it on one bridge, and reboot it. When it comes up, the 6 times per second resets are gone. We run a test backup. It works. We run a restore of that backup, and it works. We leave FC Class 2 enabled on that library for the weekend. Monday we checked, and the backups ran fine on that library. So we left it for a week, then for a month. And we no longer had any lockups on that bridge. Woot. Then the backup engineer went to her boss with the story, and asked if we could roll it out to the rest of their libraries that were having this issue, only the ones connected to X-hosts. He let us do it, and in the next escalation meeting tore into the folks from my company about why didn't you suggest this a year ago? Then the feces rolled downhill as our advanced tech support engineer tried to get me in trouble over making unapproved changes to the environment. In the after-action review conference call, the guy that was introduced as IBM's fiber channel expert asked me why I tried that setting, and I explained I was just trying it because FCP2 and FC Class 2 both started with FC and ended in 2, and I wanted to try something instead of letting it do the same thing forever. He said good job. Explanation of the issue, to my recollection, is that the driver for the fiber card expected an FC Class 1 link partner to also do FCP2 error correction. Since our bridge was talking FC Class 1, but didn't do FCP2, the card kept resetting the link until the device on the other end, our bridge, would negotiate that it did FCP2. Eventually the bridge would say I ain't talking to you no more. Neener. FCP2 error correction couldn't be used with FC Class 2, so if the card's link partner advertised both FC Class 1 and FC Class 2, then it wouldn't demand FCP2, and it stopped resetting the link with our bridges. During this fiasco, our advanced tech support engineer would periodically tell me to make sure the bridges were configured properly. I had created a script that would capture every single setting in the bridges, including hidden ones we didn't have documented, so I would send him every setting on every bridge and ask, here they are, how do you want them configured? He would never respond to that. Story 2. Getting mauled by the crawls. A number of years ago, I was the developer/administrator for a large, international website for a Fortune 100 company. As with many websites, a new website was in the works, so the old website had to be kept limping along until the shiny new one was ready for prime time. And by old, I mean it, the original website had been launched 9 years before. Due to its age, we constantly ran into limitations, but the one that really hurt the most was that the server hardware was hopelessly out of date and was starting to fail. The physical hardware was co-located at an external provider, and it made logical sense to move the servers into the cloud. So we did so. We worked through a couple of major issues, such as the one caused by a third-party vendor. This third-party vendor was owned/managed by a personal friend of the newly hired client IT director, and he insisted that this other company be involved in the planning and sizing stage. Unfortunately, they sized the database server for the website at half the size it should have been, and nobody caught it. Well, shame on us, but we got it resolved. We got all the issues resolved and things were fine. Or so we thought. Near the end of the summer, things started happening. The site became bogged down and unresponsive. We had 2 servers that were load balanced, but every now and then, one or the other of the servers would stop handling requests and would roll over and play dead. So we restarted the application pool and everything was great. Until it happened again. And again. And again. My life became a living nightmare that followed this schedule. Our European users would try to access the website in the morning. If there was a problem, and, sadly, there usually was, they would send me an email. Around 3 o'clock or 4 a.m., I would get up to go to the bathroom. Hey, I'm old, it happens, and check my email. Dang, gotta pass this along to our DevOps guy. So, off it would go. By the way, the client was not paying us for instantaneous 24-hour support, which is a little weird given that it was an international site with content in all the major European languages and also Chinese. At 7 a.m., I was at the bus stop waiting for my bus and I would check my email to see if the DevOps guy had gotten my email. Usually, he had not. At 8 a.m., when I got into work, I would check my email again, and at 8:15 a.m., I would call the DevOps guy and ask him to log in and restart the ESAP pool. He would do it and I would notify the European team that everything was back up. By this time, the European team would have been unable to do their work for approximately 3 to 4 hours. I would also renew my request to be given access to the servers so I could log in and do this from home, but upper management always rejected my request. I was the sole programmer/support developer person on this website. Yes, I was the system administrator, but I was not given physical access to the environments, so my system administration privileges were very limited. I wrote a program that I was allowed to put onto the web servers. These programs would ping themselves and try to access a given page. They were set up to do this every 5 minutes. If they did not receive a response, then they would go into a ping every 15 seconds mode. If they did not get a response after the 4th ping, then they would automatically restart the ESAP pool. This reduced the downtime from 3 to 4 hours to approximately 6 minutes. Better, but why were the darn things dying so much? I was doing everything I could, including asking for any and all web logs and supporting files. The DevOps guy was sick and tired of handling my requests, but he dutifully zipped up the logs and sent them to me. Once I started trying to analyze the files, I realized we had a problem. The log files would not fit into my editor's memory because they were way too big. Uh-oh. I did some tricks and finally got into the files. What I found made my heart sink. This poor little website that was sized to handle maybe 10,000 to 20,000 visits per day was getting absolutely hammered by Baidu crawls. We were getting upwards of 7 million web requests each and every day on both servers. When I dug into it, I saw some really weird URLs. Let's pretend like the website was called foobar.com. I saw traffic for AAA. foobar.com, OB. foobar.com, AAC. foobar.com, and so on, working its way from AAA to Z. Each of our hundreds of products across all the languages, more than 10 languages, were being requested, each going from AAA to Z. Over and over and over again. Based on the requester's information, there were at least 10 to 20 different Baidu crawlers. We finally talked to the client's marketing team in China and found out they had requested that our site be crawled by Baidu for the China market. However, they had not configured it correctly, and it was crawling all of the URLs on our site, even the ones in French, German, Spanish, Italian, and all the other languages. We finally got them to log into the Baidu dashboard to configure it correctly. We also discovered that when the website had been set up years earlier, someone had put in a wildcard on the subdomain and had not limited it to just www. Somehow, the Baidu crawlers were scanning every single combination of 3-letter subdomains, from AAA to Z. There may have also been some numbers in there, as well, such as AA1, AA2, I don't remember, I'm old, it happens. However, once we got Baidu configured correctly and removed the wildcard domain, everything started working again. And my hair had turned grayer than it had started out in the summer, and I had aged about a decade in 3 short months.